Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fielding News and Friends. Thank you all so much for joining today. I'm your host today. I'm Marcela Onyango, and I'll be hosting. And I will be telling everybody today about the news that has made me sad, angry, and glad. And the best part about it is that I will not be doing this alone. I have brought some friends along. I've got Camille, who I've met through TikTok. I've got Logan, who I met through TikTok, and I've also got Jayora, who's a person that I've met through some anarchist organization in New York City, which I will talk about a little bit more later. And lastly, but not least, hey, ready. Lastly, but not least, we are going to have It's Going Down join us in the last um, 15 minutes of the show to talk about why It's Going Down is so important and why you should support it. So I'm really excited to start off this show. I believe it's going to be a fun one. So let's go ahead and get started with news that made me sad this week. So the news that has made me very sad this week is that Black newborns are 3 times more likely to die when they're looked after by white doctors. I hate to break it to you, but Dr. McDreamy from Grey's Anatomy probably had a racist touch. Frankly, I'm still recovering from reading this news. I know racism exists and it's literally in everything, including my favorite edibles, but it's always hard when you're hit by human lives lost because of racism. This news is a little old. It actually came out in August, but I saw I saw it because someone on Twitter posted a response to a CBS tweet about a documentary about um, a CBS had posted about a documentary about that was titled "How Young Is It Too Young to Teach Your Kids About Race?" Kids in this case means white people and white kids for sure, because we all know that Black children, as shown by this news, are impacted by racism even before they leave the womb. So they definitely know. I swear, white people always like to act like they're the only people in this world who have feelings. We have feelings too. I might not always know what my feelings are. I mean, I don't know if I'm like angry or am I sad or am I just gassy, but I have feelings and they matter. And my feelings right now is honestly, fuck your feelings until Black people stop dying from racism. A white kid feeling sad isn't the equivalent of a Black newborn not living, or even the equivalent of a Black person, namely me, finding out I don't have good munchy food when I'm high. So, yeah, teach white kids to be anti racist by telling them the truth about the so called United States of America. Give them a juice box, even, if you think that that's going to make them feel less sad. Or maybe just let them feel sad. Then tell them that sadness that they feel right now will never even get close to the sadness Black people in this country feel knowing they're second class citizens or don't have good munchy snacks. Yeah, white kids being sad about racism is not even as close as me being sad when I don't have good munchies in my apartment. Anyway, that's the news that made me feel really sad. And so I'm going to invite my very good friend, who I've met through TikTok. They are funny, they are great, to talk to you about this news that has made me sad. Please welcome to the broadcast the very smart, kind, and funny Camilla. Camilla, thank you so much for joining this show. Thank you, Janae. We're excited that you're here. Janae, Kimmy and I are just catching up about news that made me sad, which is that Black newborns are 3 times more likely to die when they're looked after by white doctors. Kimmy, before I get your feelings about this news, I want to get the people who are watching to have a little bit of more of an understanding about what your political views are, so they know whether they can trust your feelings. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I have some questions for you to help us kind of suss out what your political views are. So my first question for you is, how long do you think our work day should be? A,
I don't think
as long as it takes for you to walk from your couch to the refrigerator. B, as long as it takes for you to figure out that you have nothing in the fridge and opening the door over and over again will change nothing. Or as long as the workday of an Amazon driver worker who doesn't wear a diaper. So these are your choices.
Oh my god. Okay, well I'm gonna have to go with A. But ideally, I would say nobody should work.
Yes, we love that answer. So your answer, your choice is as long as it takes you to walk from your couch to the refrigerator. And for me, that's like about 2 seconds. And I think that's work. I feel like the only work that people have to do is maybe shower. And, sometimes you don't even have to do that. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I'm liking that. So far, I like your political views. Next question. If you had to pick between being the president of the United States of America or being an X-Man, which one would you pick and why?
Oh my God, this is a good question. I
I
don't
know
think
I
I would
write
ever.
good ones.
Okay, so I'm so underversed on like X-Men anything, but I'm picking that because I don't want to. No, no, no. I can't see
Why don't
myself.
you want to be president of the United States of America? You don't want to be the imperialist leader of the world?
Most definitely not.
Okay. Well, Kimia, what I'm hearing is that you don't think that people should have to be strapped to the capitalist to live. Love that political view. I'm also hearing that you're not searching for power. You're not seeking power. You're not power hungry. So we love that. So I feel like we can trust your political views about this news. So why don't you just give me a quick rundown? What are your feelings when you heard this news about the fact that Black newborns are 3 times more likely to die when they're being attended to by white doctors? Then I'll ask you a couple of follow-up questions.
Yeah, so when I opened the article and I read it, naturally, when I come across like any discussion of race in America, I thought it was bullshit. Because it's shit that it's like, okay, we know that this happens, and then you hear the rundown and you hear the statistics, and it's very much locked in, and you're just like, I know exactly why this is happening. I know how this could not be happening, and yet people are still like dick riding white supremacy. So
Dick
yeah,
riding white supremacy. I love that.
yes, that's like
I
honestly like
unfortunately I also just got a visual and it was bad. So let's please keep going.
but yeah, it's just like people are so tethered to this idea of maintaining systems of power that affect racialized, marginalized people, and in this case, Black babies. So of course, like naturally, I was very enraged and sad at the same time, having a very odd mix of emotions. But that's kind of how I move throughout life. Is just like,
Yeah.
a
I feel like being
little
Black
unhinged.
is like being sad and angry. Sad, angry, sad, angry. I mean, there's
Yeah,
some joy, but a lot of it is like sad, angry,
yeah,
sad, angry. Yeah.
yeah. Literally.
Well, yeah. I mean, I definitely feel like that. The enraged, anger, sad. Sometimes, and it's like a lot of times it's also very confusing. So I have some follow-up questions for you regarding this news. Currently, only 5.4 of doctors in the so-called United States of America are Black. Do you think that white people should not be allowed to go to medical school anymore until this number gets to 100%?
Ideally, I would say, yeah. I don't think white people should be in any position where they're like participating in anything that could affect like another person's life. I think white people need to like, when I say sit in the back, I mean like, y'all don't need to be on the front lines of anything, like at all. Like, I'm talking paperwork, I'm talking administration. That's like where white people could situate
And I'm definitely
themselves.
talking about the front of any concert either that I purchased tickets to. Do not get in
That
the front
part
of the line.
too.
Please get in the back. Yeah, yeah.
Literally. Oh, yeah. I definitely don't think that they need to be in any positions of power. I also do think that too, if we just have more Black doctors, that won't be um like a suitable solution either. But definitely 100% white people can just like shut the fuck up.
So what you're saying is that if a white person applies to medical school today, they should just be told, "Oops, sorry, we have met our quota."
Yeah.
Okay, and you stand by that choice.
Yes, 100%.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to double check just in case somebody came for me. I was like, I didn't say it. Kim here did. I did trick you. I did do that. Anyway, next question. What do you think would be sadder for a white child? Learning they're benefiting from a racist system or losing a Lego?
Hmm. Probably losing a Lego.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I mean, yeah, but please elaborate more. Go into it. Get into it. Why?
I think because like I'm imagining people like in our current reality, the way that anybody would explain this to a white child, I don't think that, let's say it's their parents, I don't trust their parents to do it in a way that would actually like establish the real sadness of it. So they probably will be more upset that they lose a Lego. They probably won't get it because nobody's going to explain it to them properly if it comes from their parents most of the time.
So I have two follow-up questions to this. First one is that I want you to demonstrate how you imagine a white parent telling their child that they're gaining unfairly from racism. Just
Okay.
imagine. And
I
like
think
you can do like a little, you can do a voice. You don't have to really get into the theatrics of it. Just, what would you think? Let's say you have little Billy in front of you, for example, and you're
I feel
Billy's
like
mom.
Billy would be sitting down in his $500,000 house, porcelain floor. The maid has just left, and they're going to tell him, well, some things in this country are not fair for some people. And that's for us too, like there's a lot of things that aren't fair for us too, Billy. Like the
Yeah, I
fact
mean,
that
we wanted those perfect granites, and this is what we have, and that's very unfortunate. We have pain.
we
Sorry,
didn't get
but
what we
please continue.
want.
Yeah.
And then there will be a rant about how they didn't get what they want. And then that'll be the end of it. And they'll probably never get into race. And of course, I'm imagining like the most like dramatic scenario of this happening, but that is what I imagine.
Yeah, I imagine this is my imagination of a white person telling their child about racism. Billy, things are unfair for everybody. Some people have to deal with racism. Other people have to deal with their maid not showing up on time. So, we all have our struggles. And yes, you gain from racism, but don't forget that you are a person and you struggle too. I feel like that's how that would go. But yeah, I feel like you and I are
Yes.
on the same page. So my follow-up question is because we can't trust white people to teach their kids about racism. Do you think white people should be forced to have to give away their children at least for a day to other people who are not white to teach them about racism?
Yeah, and I think they should pay us like large amounts of money for me having to like decolonize your white child. Poor child. But listen, I
Do you
like
think it should be an app? Like it should be like an app of like, I want to find an educator from this is so stupid.
it'll be like God, what the fuck is that shit? Like what does they do for the tutoring? Like how there's like a whole like website for tutoring. There's a couple of them, but there's like some big ones. Like is Kaplan one of those or something? I feel like it would be something
Oh,
like
I've heard
that.
of that. I don't know. My parents didn't take me to tutoring because they believe that I should study by myself at home quietly and not make any noise. But yeah, no. Yeah, it could be something like that, I guess. But we definitely will not have Zuckerberg do it because he'll mess it up.
He'll mess it
Okay.
up.
Last question for you, Camilla. Did a juice box ever make you feel better when someone was being racist towards you?
What kind of juice box?
Oh, like oh, what was it? Like a Capri Sun, like those little ones, the
Ooh,
pouches.
or like a Huggies? Because I
Yes.
really liked Huggies. If it was a blue Huggies, I might be okay. No, the fuck. No, never.
So you don't think juice boxes will help you feel a little better if somebody does something really
No.
mean to you? What if somebody like if you followed around in a store and then you walk out and somebody gives you a juice box?
Hmm. You know, some like food euphoria might come. However, I'll still be upset.
Yeah.
I'll
So
still
I mean,
feel
it sounds
unhinged.
like yeah. So it sounds like you're always upset. So it's okay for white kids to be upset. So yes, we should definitely teach them about racism and not let white people go to medical school. This is what I've gotten from you. Thank you
Yeah, that's a
so
good
much.
summary.
Thank you so much, Camille, for joining me and telling me your feelings about the news. I will bring you back later to chat more about other things, but that was Camille. I really appreciate it. Awesome. Okay, that was news that made me very sad. Now I'm going to move on to news that made me angry. I have three feelings: sad, angry, and glad. No, I'm just kidding. I'm more complex than that, but we're not going to get into that. Let's get into this news that made me angry. So the New York City mayor, the new one, has a the New York City. Oh my God, can I talk? New York City has a new crypto cop mayor, and I do not like him one bit. If you don't know, his name is Eric Adams, and I call him crypto cop because he is a former cop who wants to be paid in cryptocurrency. Y'all, is it just me, or is it every toxic man is into crypto? So yes, I'm angry that this man is mayor, and I'm even angrier that he had the nerve to blame anarchists for Democrats' elections losses by saying Democrats lost because they're catering to anarchists who are trying to destroy our way of life. And he's right. Anarchists are trying to destroy our way of life because we're trying to destroy a way of life that encourages mass exploitation under the threat of starvation. Sorry, we don't think it's okay for people to be homeless because Bezos wants to buy another yacht. And what is it with rich people and yachts anyway? Do you think they're buying these yachts up so that they can escape to sea once we all turn on them? Please tell me that they know it's coming. Okay, but just to be clear, Democrats didn't lose elections because they were catering to anarchists. Democrats actually lost the elections because they weren't catering to anarchists. If Democrats actually gave people what anarchists want, we would be free, racism would be over, and you can finally focus on learning how to crochet instead of working an 80-hour work week. So, those are my feelings about Eric Adams. And because this is Phil News and Friends, I have a friend who's going to come on and help me talk about Eric Adams and his feelings about it. Please welcome JR. JR, thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm really excited to have you. And before, we get into your feelings, I just want to get a good understanding of your political views so, we know whether we can trust them,
Okay.
whether we can trust your feelings about this piece of news. So I have the same questions for you that I asked Kim you. How long do you think our workday should be? As long as it takes for me to walk from your couch to the refrigerator, as long as it takes you to figure out that you have nothing in the fridge and opening the door over and over again will change nothing, or as long as an Amazon Prime driver who doesn't wear a diaper to work works.
I'd go with option A on that one if we have to have one at all,
Yes, that is a good answer. So you want people to work as little as possible. I am a fan so far. Okay, great.
Thank you.
If you had to pick between being the president of the United States or being an X-Men, which one would you pick and why?
Oh, well, X-Men, obviously. Now, is this where I have to pick an existing one to fill their spot, or can I make one up on my own?
Go ahead, make one up.
Oh.
Also, why X-Men over President of the United States?
Oh, well, because I imagine the horrible things you have to convince yourself to think you're doing any good in that position, or just the kind of monster you'd have to be to kind of seek that position out in the first place.
Oh no, you mean the presidents of the United States are monsters? Why? Why would you say such a thing?
No, you're right. They're all swell folks. Real good people.
I mean, all they
Definitely
want is
war
to spread freedom
or...
and justice all over the globe.
Of course. And what better way to do that with big explosions?
Yeah, guns. That's how you spread freedom.
Yeah.
You didn't know that?
Exactly.
Okay. Anyway, well, now I get it. The president is a monster, which we all agree on. But X-Men, you're gonna make up one.
Well, I think I bit off a little more than I could chew by adding that caveat to that question. I think I would just, I'd want to be some type of nature connected one, not like Storm specifically, but something more earthbound, so I could just make shit grow all over the place. That seems
like turn all the roads into just marijuana fields.
Exactly, like a cooler version actually of Kwame from Captain Planet. I don't know if you remember that cartoon at all.
I have very limited knowledge of the X-Men. I just put them in here because, I just like to start trouble, honestly.
Well, Captain Planet was an environmentalist cartoon that I think Ted Turner helped develop in the 80s.
Oh, yeah, that's 90s, the one where they used to fight against the corporate magnets who were destroying the planet. Yes, Captain Planet. I remember that. Oh,
and one of the Earth, I think they were Earth Rangers. I don't remember the name, but one of them had a ring that his power was Earth, and he could make badass stuff happen with earthquakes and shit. So maybe a little more constructive than destructive. I'd
Okay.
want to go in that. But yeah.
Perfect. So
Yeah.
it sounds like you don't think that people should have to work every day instead of like doing whatever they want. You don't want to be president of the United States because you don't think that spreading democracy with guns or actually spreading democracy to people who don't really like you is a great idea. Love
Yep.
that. And also, you want to turn all the roads into weed gardens. So
Yes,
I think that your
exactly.
politics can definitely be trusted. So
Thank you.
just go ahead and let us know about how your feelings about, Eric Adams, hating on anarchists. Because not to assume, but you are an anarchist, are you not?
Uh, at this point in my theory journey, I'd say I'd currently call myself an anarcho-syndicalist. Uh,
Okay.
but that's
Can you
also
explain
subject to.
that for the kids at home who don't know what
Um,
that means?
well, so, and this is for me at least my understanding as I'm at now with the journey that I'm currently on with theory is that you know uh, I generally like view things from an anarchist lens of no hierarchy, no state, no. But I also see like there's the overlap with like with socialism, like a cashless, stateless society, classless, stateless society, a non-moneyed society, and how that also seems to work in concert with the ideals of anarchism too. So I haven't written anything off just yet, but as far as like specifically the idea of no state is really kind of stressed upon with anarchism, especially, and that at this point makes the most sense to me.
So no state, and you want to burn money. Got it. Love it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
let's get into the meat of Eric Adams apparently who hates anarchists. I don't even think he knows one.
Well,
Alrighty. What are
that
your
was
feelings about that?
it was kind of funny to me just reading that because like it reminded me of two things very specifically was one was the church people that I was around as a teenager. My mom at the time was stationed at Fort Bragg in North Carolina, so like right dead in the Bible Belt, and it's like they would say things to you like no, of course the Earth is 6,000 years old, and that's not they don't question that at all, and it's just but like just what a world to be in where you would like you could say something like that or Democrats lost in Virginia because they were catering to anarchists and believe yourself saying that. You know what I mean? Like that's just that
I
the
just
the
think these people
disconnect
have
there
lied.
is yeah.
Yeah, they've just like lied to themselves so much that they start believing their own lies. It's like,
Oh
when you like
yeah.
trick yourself into thinking that things are okay and they're not, and then you finally start thinking that they're okay, but they're really not okay. I feel like
Right.
that's the mood that I'm getting. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I thought
And
that was really weird.
it's just also boy, wouldn't it be great if Democrats were actually as cool as people thought they were? Like
I know. It's like, whenever like people like have like a parent who other kids think are cool, and then like the kid at home is like, my parent is actually not that cool. I wish they were that cool. Like I feel like that's how Democrats are. People always like,
yeah.
oh my God, your mom is so cool. And you're like, yeah, but like she's not.
No.
She's just cool to you.
Yeah. This
Yeah.
that what Eric Adams said also reminded me of another thing, which was uh, the former mayor and police commissioner of Philadelphia, Frank Rizzo. I believe he was actually the police commissioner during the move bombings in '85, so it shows you what kind of huge piece of shit he was. But
Mm-hmm.
after he was mayor, like one of the local news stations, they were doing an investigative report on him because they heard that he still had like a security detail provided by the cops, but that also he was like that security detail. He was like bossing them around, which he did when they caught the van on the street, the news van, and like he's telling the cops what to do and like smashes one of their cameras and stuff. And about a week later, the guy who was doing the story shows up to talk to him, and he's going off on this like terrorist like where he keeps calling this reporter. He's like, you're a lush, and you're a crumb creep. And I think that's how I
That's
think
such
that
old timey
I know.
insults. It's like, what?
I,
Like
I
you had, yeah.
I think that's how Eric Adams thinks he sounds, where it's like it's this old man who's like, yeah, it's these anarchists, these Sackos and Vanzettis going crazy with the pipe bombs in the marketplaces. Which I don't know
Yeah.
why I turned Eric Adams into a vaudevillian, but I don't know. It just works.
Yeah. So it sounds like you don't think Eric Adams is doing a great job, but I have a question for you. Do you think Eric Adams is going to be a worse mayor than the kid you hated in high school?
Which one? Ah.
Oh, wow. The one that you hated the most.
uh You know what? Probably because like I think that Eric Adams has a certain amount of ambition, whereas the kid that I hated just was, content to stay in Fayetteville, North Carolina and work at his dad's dealership.
I mean, honestly, all jobs are jobs, but I will say this. Wouldn't it be nice if bad people didn't have any ambition? Why is it always the bad people that have ambition? And then the good people are like, I just like to chill. I just want to chill and I want everybody else to chill.
Ugh, I guess if you're the kind of the person who has fantasies of like being in charge of people, you're probably just not that a good person to begin with.
Yeah, who wants to tell people what to do? That is so annoying and
Yeah.
honestly too much work. But I guess it's
Yeah.
worth it for those people because then they can buy 10 yachts. Last but not least, since you are in this on this how journey of being an anarchist, how many times did the Democratic candidates go to anarchist headquarters to discuss including the anarchist agenda in the Democratic Party agenda? Apparently, I'm just asking if this is something that you might have any news for us.
Well, no, they are there. It's when we're getting our Soros checks.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. And by the way, anarchists do have headquarters also, FYI, for
We
those who
do.
are asking. Yeah, we definitely
Hmm.
do. Anyway, thank you so much, Eric, for joining me today to
Yeah, of
talk about
course.
Eric Adams and the news. I was very happy to have you. We're going to keep this moving. How is everybody else hanging in there? Reddy said, I'm going to look at the chat right now. Reddy has said, I've heard so much worse from Bible stands too. Their whole cult is based on misinterpreting historical text. Honestly, yeah, but I don't know enough about the Bible to even know what they're misinterpreting. I went to Sunday school and all I used to do was leave early and use my Sunday school money to buy peanuts. That's what I used to do. So never really spent a lot of time. Hey, Amanda. Thank you. I'm excited that you're here too. I'm going to keep the show going and then feel free to write in the comments. And then what I'm going to do, this show is still ongoing. We're trying to figure out a good structure. So if you have any questions or any comments, just throw them in the comment section and I will talk about them after I talk to our next guest. But before I bring on our next guest, I want to talk about news that made me happy, which is the last piece of news we're going to talk about. News that made me happy. Oh, actually found out about this news through IGD's worldwide Twitter. News that made me happy is that migrants in Mexico fought back against the Mexican National Guard who killed a Cuban immigrant last week. Though people were injured in this strife, nothing makes me happier than people fighting back against their oppressors because I imagine doing the same thing to my middle school bully. I never stood up for myself and I regret it. All kidding aside, when people fight back against oppressors, it's reclaiming their human right to self-defense, a right that states keep telling us we don't have if we're defending ourselves against the state. It's okay for the cop to beat your ass, but it's never okay for you to defend yourself from the cops beating your ass. Anyway, the state is a huge bully, and I'm always happy when people stand up to a bully. So solidarity with the migrants on the forefront of fighting against these made-up constructs that we call borders. That's the news that made me happy. I know it was like a little mix of sad and happy, but fuck borders. And I am really excited to bring the next guest to this show, to the screen. It's very funny, very enchanting. Logan Grendel, who does so many things. Logan, thank you so much for being on our show today.
It is my pleasure. You are the funny one. I don't know what I do, but somehow I show up.
You do so much. You do so much. Do not sell yourself short ever. Logan, I want to get your feelings about this piece of news, but like the other guys, I just want to be sure that I and the other people who are watching this show can trust your view on the news. So I'm
Okay.
going to ask you the same questions that I asked them to get a feeling about what your political views are. Okay. To figure out what your political views are, two questions. First one is, how long do you think our workday should be? A, as long as it takes for me to walk from my couch to the refrigerator. B, as long as it takes you to figure out that you have nothing in the fridge and that opening the door over and over again will change nothing. Or as long as an Amazon Prime worker driver who doesn't have a diapers workday.
Okay, so of those three options, and defining work as it is currently defined rather than how I think it should be defined, then the answer would be either A, or if there is like something that is below A, But I guess A, since these are the options in front of me. So like, let's not make new, we're not gonna like write in, a write-in campaign here like they did in Buffalo. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, we can get into that. But yeah, okay, so you say less than the amount of time it takes me to walk from my refrigerator, from my couch to the refrigerator, which is approximately like 2 minutes. So what you're saying is that people should just be able to lay around all day doing nothing, right? Is that what you're saying?
So I'm not exactly saying that. I'm saying that what we call work is mostly drudgery and making money for like rich capitalists. And I read this thing. It was talking about like how the most productive people, most active people are children, and if we were allowed to just do whatever we want to, most of the time we wouldn't be sitting around. We'd be doing stuff that we love and we'd be busy all the time, but we wouldn't be like drudging away. And if we felt like just sitting down under a tree, we could, you know what I mean? So like,
And also we'd be better at it. We'd be better at it because when I like to do something, I'm better at it. The reason why I've sucked at all my jobs is because I didn't like it. I didn't want to do it. I was forced to be there. So yes, I love that. Yeah. And people do want to do stuff. They always say that, oh, if there wasn't work, people would just lay around. They actually wouldn't. They would like for the first 6 months though, because they're tired and exhausted.
Hell yeah.
But finally they would get up and learn how to crochet or learn how to paint or do all the things that they want to do. Okay. So I like that answer. You think that people should be able to play and do the things that they love. Second up question to figure out what your political views are. If you had to pick between being the president of the United States or being an X-Men, which one would you pick and why?
I mean, an X-Men like 10 times out of 10 and like an extra time on a Sunday. So an extra time. So 11 since it is Sunday. Obviously an X-Men, obviously, like no question. And is there a sub question or is that just
why? Why would you pick that over being president of the United States of America?
So, I mean, first of all,
you get to like bomb people for fun.
So, I mean, you could do that if you were an X-Men and you were so inclined. But if you were an X-Men, you would have A, real power. B, you would not be like, to become president in this country, you have to be some kind of goon. Like, you have to have already done a bunch of messed up stuff in order to even like be qualified to be president, right? And like, if I was an X-Men, then I could get telekinesis. And like, telekinesis is the only superpower worth having. Don't let anyone tell you different.
Tell me what telekinesis is.
Telekinesis, loosely defined, is the ability to move things with the mind alone. And everything is things. So people are like, oh, I'd like to fly. Well, you could just move yourself if you were a telekinetic. You could just pick yourself up and fly yourself.
Isn't that cheating?
No. It's just using your power creatively. They tell you the rules and you use them.
I feel like you're trying to hack into this whole power structure thing. But one thing that I want to go back to is that to be a president of the United States of America, you must have done some shady things for them to even consider 100%. You. Do you think they have a list of things that they tell you, sort of like Fear Factor, where you have to finish the list of those things? And then only if you do that will those rich people let you run this country. Do you think that they have it?
Undoubtedly. And if you haven't finished one, then they put you through like some Fear Factor type challenge where you got to like eat bugs or be crawled on by a bunch of like leeches, and then they let you run. If you haven't completed like, the murderer's row of hideousness that they require for you to join.
I definitely think that that's the case. I say this and I say it every time in every show. I feel like all the world leaders have a brunch every day and laugh at us because they're like, look at them thinking that we are all different and actually fighting. Can you believe they think we're fighting? Like, I feel like the like international relations is just like the Real Housewives. That's what we're watching. It's not real. They're not actually mad at each other. They're all just like, all these states are working together to exploit all of us to make that the elites take everything. I swear, I feel like that's what it is.
100%. It's like WWE, It's like they go on the stage, they fight, and then they go back and they have drinks together. The kids play together. Forget it. Like,
do you remember when we were talking about you having nuclear weapons? That's so funny, right? I mean, look at them. They're still struggling and suffering. And they think it's real. It's like reality TV. That's how I feel like. 100%. Not even good reality TV though, either.
Yeah.
Bad reality TV.
Agreed.
But anyway, so I think your political views are great. You want to, and I think that they can be trusted. So let's move on to talking about the fact that these migrants fought against the National Guard. What are your general feelings about that?
I mean, hell yeah. I think it's like it kind of shows that people are just sick of it. Like whatever we're talking about, wherever we're talking about, right? People are sick of it. They're just sick of it, and they're not going to take it anymore. And at a certain point, like I one of my favorite little taglines when I end a piece of writing or a show or whatever, how far can you push a generation, and like there, it's like we've had the fuck around years, and now we're approaching the find out years, and like that's what just happened in Mexico.
Now they're just finding out.
Now
They've
they're finding
been
out.
fucking around and they're finding out. I love that. Okay, so it sounds like you're really happy about this, but what makes you happier? People standing up for themselves against exploitation, or your favorite snack?
Definitely people standing up against exploitation, because a snack is ephemeral. But like, if we can actually get freedom and get a better world, that will last a long time, and we'll all get better snacks. So
We'll get better and more snacks. I like
better
that
and more
answer.
snacks. Yeah.
Yeah, and you won't be limited to like Oreos, which is evil. It's like you will be able to consume snacks without feeling guilty. Like whenever you're like, I love this snack, but I also know it's like extremely problematic, that's gonna go away.
Yes.
Love that. Okay. Next question. Who do you hate more? Your middle school bully or Borders?
I mean, definitely Borders. Definitely Borders. I didn't have one consistent middle school bully because
So they went like in shifts, or
eventually I would get, I got tired of it, and I would do something that would make them not want to keep bullying me,
Ooh, I love that you're a freedom fighter from birth.
I mean, I don't want to say anything that will incriminate myself. Actually, I think we're past the statute of limitations on a lot of those
this
crimes.
Is a comedy show. Everything here is a joke. Nothing's real.
Right. I definitely, in jest, may have in like 7th grade almost pulled somebody's ear off because they were much bigger than me and they wouldn't leave me alone. So what do? You just do what you can. You just do what you can.
Oh, Logan, I love that you were small and scrappy, which is also what we should all be, small and scrappy. And
Yes.
And honestly, the people that we're fighting against, they're not that big. Have you seen them? And
they're not very
there's
sizable.
Not that many of them. There's like, my dad was like, how are we letting 200 people boss us around and bully us?
It's
200
true.
people are bullying and bossing billions of people. And we're not letting them. It's a propaganda, and they're oppressing and they're killing us. So,
Yeah. But I mean, I agree. I mean, I feel like, we are kind of letting them, but also like, that's the problem with being a good person, is that like, it takes a lot to get to the point where you're trying to pull someone's ear off. You know what I mean? And we're approaching it, but usually you just try and avoid it. You're like, please don't. I'm going to go this way. I'm going to avoid you. I'm going to do what I can. And it's like, we're like, look, y'all are power hungry. Y'all are doing all this weird stuff. Like, I just want to go back home and like watch some Netflix, pet a dog, maybe smoke a little weed or something, maybe like snuggle on somebody once in a blue moon. Like, y'all are in some weird shit. Why are y'all making up all this weird shit? And at a certain point, it gets too much. And,
you gotta pull an ear off.
Yeah.
I mean, you just gotta. Sometimes it happens. You got to pull an ear off. Also, might be the tag for this show next time. So my last question for you, Logan, is when was the last time you booed a cop?
That I booed a cop?
Mm-hmm.
Probably when I went to vote in New York City, and Eric Adams was on the thing, and I saw his name, and I was like, boo, and then I chose someone else.
I love that. So I always tell everybody on this show, if you can boo a cop, be careful though. Boo them from afar.
Oh, definitely.
You know how they work, and they don't like being booed, even though they do know that people hate them. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us, Logan. It was really nice having you. That was it for the news, but I'm really excited to bring our last guest. We have somebody from It's Going Down, which is my favorite news source for good news and sometimes bad news, to talk about It's Going Down and why you should support it. They're not going to be on camera because, when you're doing freedom fighter stuff, you don't want people to see your face because the state is garbage and they will come try to find you. Anyway, do we have a person on the other line to talk to us?
Yes, we do. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for joining Feel the News. So I'm just going to get right into the questions.
All right.
Okay. What would you say is the main difference between IGD and CNN other than not having Anderson Cooper?
We don't labor under the delusion of journalistic neutrality. We are a partisan news source. Like, we are anarchists and we do anarchist stuff, and we are a media project, right? We, just like any other media project, we try and be accurate, and we, report news and things like that, but we are not neutral, right? We take a position very strongly and we stick to it. CNN tries to labor under this delusion of not doing so, right? But we all know that they do, as does every journalist, right? Like, the idea of journalistic neutrality is a fiction, and we just don't pretend to labor under that.
Exactly. I want to tease this out a little bit more. When you're talking about the fact that CNN pretends like they're neutral, what does that mean? I want you to tell it to the audience. Sorry, I'm in New York City, and apparently people are trying
it's all
to
good.
come in through the doors.
So this exists at two levels, right? So I think that there's this kind of superficial narrative, which is like CNN's liberal and Fox is conservative, and OAN is somewhere more wingnutty than Alex Jones, and so on. And that's really where people think that the politics of media is expressed. But I really want people to think about this slightly differently. It's not about the fact that Anderson Cooper is some kind of like wishy-washy moderate neoliberal, right? That's not what's important. Or that Wolf Blitzer is like essentially a neocon who wears fancy suits, right?
The reality is fancy suits.
The reality is that all of these stations, all of these outlets are pro-capitalist and pro-state, and they're taking that position, right? We have to keep in mind that the idea of the modern nation state or the idea of capitalism are relatively recent in human history. They've only really been operative as social structures for 350 to 450 years, depending on how you want to measure that. And so the idea that a news station takes that as neutral, right? So really it's a question of how does one define neutrality? Because neutrality in a pure sense is nothing, right? So if they're going to define
context,
yes, there has to be something. And so what they're defining as neutrality is being pro-capitalism, being pro-state. Everything beyond that is just aesthetics, right? And really all these stations really differ on is those basic aesthetic superficial differences. But underlying that, they're all really supporting the same thing.
So is what you're saying is that Anderson Cooper shouldn't be trusted even though he's hot and he has really cool hair?
Yeah, unfortunately. He does have a good presence on screen, though. It's really hard to just like not want to trust him, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're all like very nice, and they have it's always like, but you're cute. I'm sure all the news is good and nice. So as we all know, CNN has corporate daddies. Who are your corporate daddies?
Depending on if you ask the PSL, it's the CIA, but really short of
that.
Oh,
we're getting spicy. Don't get me into words. Also get me into them.
I talk a lot of trash on tankies if you don't notice, but
oh no, it's fine. We can. Beyond that, I wanted the people to know who are your corporate daddies and what do they do?
Yeah, so contrary to what the alt-right or even like I would say the right wing thinks, we actually do a lot of this stuff super DIY, right? Like there's anyone that's ever interacted with Anarchy World knows even 10 years ago, there were like we started all this stuff on like no resources, right? Really with free time and like dumpster food and a couple extra bucks from our pocket, and that's really all we had. And years have gone by, and these projects like Crime Think or IGD or even things like AK and PM Press really built up into these like massive, huge projects at this point that actually do have supporters and things like that. But all of that support that we get comes from people that support the project organically, right? So we don't take any money from anyone else.
Yeah. So what you're telling me is there are people out there who actually also hate the state. Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, we saw a whole bunch of them come out in the streets last year, right?
I know. Who would have thought? Well, I'm happy to know that your corporate daddies are you, and also I'm really happy that you did give us a little bit of that background, because I think it just goes into this whole notion again of like, if we had all the free time in the world, we would do good things like this.
Oh yeah.
So, and I have more questions for you. So so IGD reports a lot on fascists. Why do you think corporate news doesn't report how much of a real threat fascists are? Is it because it's not as exciting as Biden's lies?
Right now, yes. So we talk to a lot of journalists, right? We're a high profile project, and we talk to a lot of journalists, and a lot of journalists want to write the like why X, Y, or Z nice kid from the suburb puts on a ski mask and goes to fight Nazis, and they really love that kind of like big human interest story side of things. What they don't.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Do you think it's also because these people are white?
Yes, I was just about to say that. I think that there is definitely this sense in which a lot of people in the United States mostly forget that fascists are a threat and then periodically remember that. So like we have things like Charlottesville, right? And Charlottesville happens. Everyone goes, oh my God, all those anti-fascists on the internet, they were right this whole time. And we were telling them that they were being alarmist and all this stuff. And oh my God, Nazis actually murdered somebody. Whoa. And then, they all forget about it for 3 years, right? And then a Nazi like shoots up a grocery store, and then everybody remembers about it again. Or January 6th happens, and everybody remembers about it again. But the reality is that those things that we see on something like CNN or in the New York Times, those all come at the end, culminating point of a long organizing process for them. And really, the daily work that anti-fascists do of research, of outreach, of deprogramming people, of gathering information, infiltrating organizations, like that kind of work isn't the exciting stuff, right? The media wants to see blood, they want to see street fights, right? But that's not 95% of what anti-fascists do. And so when you combine that with the fact that what we are doing is also attacking the state at the same time that we're going after fascists, we start to end up with this idea in which like there's this concept that comes out of old anti-racist organizing called the three-way fight, right? Where we're sort of locked into the struggle with both the right wing and the state simultaneously. That's really where that dynamic is bouncing off, right? So like the media gets interested when it's profitable, right? When they can tell the human interest story and get a bunch of people to read and have a bunch of clickbaity titles, but they don't want to know about the 2.5 or 3 years of work it goes into to infiltrate a neo-Nazi organization before ProPublica gets that data dump. They don't want to know about all of that. It's not exciting to them, and it doesn't get clicks. It really, really doesn't. But that's, for those of you listening, that's the important work, right? Like the stuff that happens in the streets, like fine. And that's great. And like, by all means, if one shows up, punch a Nazi. But the reality is that if we're really effective, they never even get there.
Gotcha. So you were trying to deprogram people, which brings you to the other question, which is like the media is always programming us. So you're working on deprogramming and the media is working on programming. How do you get people to like understand, like, a lot of people watch CNN, a lot of people watch corporate news, like New York Times. How do you get them to understand that, hey, this is literally lies? Like, how do you do that? And then the other part of that is that how do you do that and then get them to have access to news media that's actually going to like be honest about like the state of things and reality?
Yeah, so within this project, we approach that a number of different ways, which is very different than other projects I do work on and have worked on. But in this project, we are a public media project, right? And in a lot of ways are kind of this gateway for people outside of the anarchist scene to kind of quote, get the perspective of, quote, anarchists, right? Which, so they call us a lot. And part of the reason why we choose to interact with the media, right? Because we could very easily choose not to. And lots of other anarchist projects do make that choice. And that's entirely a valid choice. And most projects I work on make that choice. But at IGD, we make a different choice. And the reason we make a different choice is to be able to have some way to get that messaging out. Now, most of the time, that doesn't matter. Right? Most of the time it gets ignored. Most of the time nobody talks about it. But then we end up in something like a struggle against neo-Nazis, or we end up in something like the uprising last summer. And then all of a sudden, those relationships that are built over years with these people that are journalists pay off. They call us, we can direct them to people. We can give comments. And really what we're doing a lot of the time is we are trying to direct people to resources, right? So if you look at the way IGD is structured, everything we do is about pointing outwards, right? People come into the site, but it's really just kind of this collection point. Everything points outwards because, the anarchist community is an iceberg. You see these little tiny things pop up like over the top of the surface, right? But really below that, there is this whole world that exists that is robust and creative and beautiful and huge. And it's really this process, not of individual points of data, but it's this process of creating spaces where people that do feel alienated can come and find friends, can come and start to get active, can come and start to have those conversations. We get taught this stuff for years. We get taught this stuff, again, not even as positions for us to take up actively. We get taught these things as defaults, as givens in our lives, right?
Yeah, like individual points of
Yes. Yeah. Individual points of data don't undo that, right? It's about creating an interaction with somebody that has already sort of found a reason to start to look elsewhere outside of what they've been taught.
Gotcha. What would you say to parents who are scared about their kids finding IGD and realizing that everything is awful? And what do you say to them?
To those parents, those kids already have the internet. So I'm a millennial, and I grew up in like a lefty family. And so like when I got the internet when I was a teenager, it did open a whole world up. For parents that are out there listening to this, there's nothing you're going to do to stop your kids from finding stuff online. And if that's really what you're trying to do, you're sort of missing the point entirely. These kids are going to find this stuff and they're going to engage with it. And at the end of the day, just really remember, like, we're really nice people and we like to fight Nazis. And that's like a lot of what we do. But ultimately, this is about community and collective action and people getting empowered in their lives. And so if your kid figures out that the world is scary and horrible, the problem isn't that your kid figured out the world is scary and horrible. The problem is that the world is scary and horrible. And that's the thing that actually needs to change.
Yes. And Antifa is your friend also.
Indeed.
And they may or may not have a headquarters. Anyway.
It's in a cave on an island with like a skull on top. Yeah.
Yes. And you will see, you have to look for the map to find the island. It's hidden also. So thank you so much for joining us. We're actually going to do something that I like to call a high moment, which is how I end the show. And I ask people to talk about things that they've thought about when they've been high. So I'm going to bring, if you want to hang around for that for a little bit, I'm going to bring everybody back on and we're just going to go around and give our high moments. I will start. So my high moment is that I realize that it must be really hard to be a cool person. I've seen people hanging out, trying to be cool, pretending like they don't like things, pretending like they don't enjoy things. And it just like makes me sad because I'm like, yeah, you seem like you're cool, but it also seems like you're struggling. Just like eat that candy and show your joy. So that's my high moment. And I just want people to feel like you don't need to be cool. Show people that you have feelings. Show people that you have emotions. It's good. It's not bad. So I'm gonna just go around the room and let around the room. We're together in this. What is it? Web space? What? I don't know. I don't know what words I'm using. Anyway, our lovely human who's joined us from IGD. Do you have a high moment that you'd like to share with everybody?
Yeah. Generally the world sucks and I feel really bad. But a couple nights ago, I sat back and I was on my couch and I was thinking back about actually how much we have actually accomplished over the last like 20 to 25 years, right? Like we've struggled really hard and we've done a lot of things. And though everything still sucks, we do have a lot to be proud of. And everyone needs to really sit back and recognize we have achieved a lot and these things do add up and matter. And that gave me a lot of solace, like a sense of peace for even just a moment.
I love that. That is so good. Yeah, we are making progress. That's lovely. Camilla, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so my high moment is also somewhat on the lines of like abolition, but for whatever reason, when I'm really high, I like think about like the Townsville and like the Powder Puff Girls, like how and like I imagine like if we are to like get rid of all these systems of harm or whatever, like that the world would kind of look like that. I don't know why, but that's just how my happy place, I guess. But like all the colors are reversed. Like the trees are like blue and the sky is green. And I'm just like, yeah, this is what it's gonna be. So that's my moment.
I love that your high moment is Pop-Up Girls because I love that show so much. Oh man, it was a good one. JR, would you like to share?
For me, I think it's a lot of, oh, well, I should do this now, but also combine it with another activity. So like, yeah, like I want a sandwich, but also I need to change clothes. And then I just end up naked in the kitchen with like bread sitting out. Neither one really gets accomplished.
That's good.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow, that was amazing. I should just do a whole show of this. Alrighty, Logan, would you like to share your high moment? Oh no. Did we lose
Oh,
the
no.
Logan? Okay, well, while we're waiting for Logan to rejoin us, I'm going to go ahead and just like go briefly through the comments. So, oh no, they're back. Okay, cool. Logan, would you like to share your high moment with us?
Yeah. So I think this was like a couple weeks ago. And I may or may not have been high. Who knows? You can never get me to admit it. But my thought was, wait. So technically everybody's non-binary and cis people don't exist because there's maybe like one or two people who fit all of the supposed things that like come with their gender, like everything, right? That tick all the boxes. That like there's one dude somewhere who does all the dude things and one woman somewhere who does all the femme things, but like for the most part, like it's super made up. So non-binary is the only real gender.
Oh my goodness, I totally agree with that. And yeah, and whoever those people are, they're very unhappy. Like, can you imagine having to do all those things that you have to do to be like a man or a woman? Oh my God, unsign me up. Absolutely not.
Yeah, the dude had a feeling and had to cancel himself.
Yeah, like, no party to that. Anyway, that was amazing. Thank you all so much for joining the show. Before we go, I always like to give people a couple of minutes to ask any questions that they may have, and also to ask you to Venmo Marcela Onyango. If you thought this was super fun and you have extra funds and you want to like redistribute your wealth, this would be a great way to do it. But in the meantime, I just want to know, does anybody have any questions for any of our fabulous guests that we had today? Dad, do you have a question? My dad is. Oh, it's okay. It's gonna be not a bop, not me. Oh, Amanda said that they love all the guests. I'm saying, and then not a bot. Nope, not me. Said that they are so late. No, don't worry, not a bot. We will have this on YouTube, on Field and News YouTube. So don't worry about it. You can watch it all over again. All right. Do we have any other? Oh, and a comment from earlier from Reddy, talking to JR, saying, I've heard so much worse from Bible stands too. Their whole cult is based on misinterpreting historical texts. And then another one is, as a history major, you hurt my heart, JR. You're not wrong, but it still wounds me. So those are some of the comments that we've gotten. And we got a lot of yes, and I agree from Janae. Janae was very excited. And thank you so much, Janae, for joining and leaving all your comments. Let's see, we have one new comment. Somebody else, TDW said that they really enjoyed the show. So thank you all so much for joining us. This was so fun. I really enjoyed it, and I appreciate all of you coming with all your feelings and being honest and being vulnerable. It's really hard, and I know I ask goofy questions, but I think we all had a fun time, and I will hopefully see you soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.